A quick podcast on using running Python in a Jupyter notebook and running on Microsoft Azure. Okay, so Jupyter notebooks are a way to mix Python code and text. They actually kind of run in a web browser. The actual interface is a web browser. The actual code runs either on your own PC or on a cloud-based machine. The good thing about Jupyter notebooks is it allows documentation and code to be mixed, and that means if you're trying to explain a kind of calculation algorithm, you can have a bit of text and then have the code underneath. So it's kind of more sophisticated way of documenting the code, and it's kind of important when you're doing collaborations and you want to send your calculation to your group members or who else you're working with. A particular feature of the Jupyter notebooks is very easy to include LaTeX things if you need to include equations. So I have an equation here. And the original thing is input to be using a format of something called LaTeX, which is a standard way of kind of rendering mathematics that's used a lot in kind of mathematics and physics. Like I said before, the text and code makes it easy to collaborate using a notebook. And also if you look online, for example, say machine learning, a lot of the times they'll give you an example code, but a lot of the time they'll give you a Jupyter notebook to explain the method. So what does it look like? I'm using it in a slightly different, I'll come out of the slide mode in a minute, so I'm using it in a slide mode of things. But essentially you get bits of text like this, and then here is a piece of Python code, import math, computing the cos of 2 radians, and you get a result. Okay, this is just the most basic system. Also you can do things like graphs and all the standard Python stuff. Okay, so if you can't install Jupyter notebooks on your own machine, I mean, Jupyter notebook standard way for using something called Conda, it comes with that normally. Microsoft have something called a cloud system, which means they provide hardware, some of which is free to use. So sometimes you do the calculation that you write the code in the kind of web browser, and then it's actually run on the data cloud in some data center around the world. Many actual physical companies use cloud systems for their computing needs, just because if they need a lot of cycles beyond what they have on a PC, they can pay money and then it's run on a cloud. Okay, Microsoft Azure is a big package. It has a whole bunch of stuff, databases, machine learning, ways to kind of integrate mobile apps. You can kind of integrate your machine learning algorithms with apps. But the only stuff we don't really use interested in is just the Jupyter notebooks. And this is currently a free system, which is good. Obviously, sometimes you have to wait for, so you're asked to run a little Python code, you have to wait for it to assign a machine to kind of thing. So there are some that's not completely great. Google has its own free system as well, called Google Colab. Here's the link, you just go Google Colab. And that also has a similar thing where it runs Jupyter notebooks. It'll run, the interface is the browser, you write code, and then it actually runs on the Google hardware. And that actually stores the things in your Google Drive. Okay, so this is what it kind of looks like. You have a special format. So this thing is called a markup language, the simple way of formatting these things. Each one of these things is called a cell. Then here's the mathematics. This is so you have bits of text, markdown. The kernel is what you run, and you kind of run through. Just keep pressing through each tab. You can insert cells. So it's very much if you see like the Maple workbooks, and I think it's kind of originally come from that kind of format. But the extra stuff here is the actual Python code is just standard Python. Is how to interact. So here's the note to the Jupyter notebook. The reason why I'm kind of pushing the Microsoft Azure stuff is if you go down to the link, if you do a search for Microsoft Azure notebooks, and you do the sign in, it asks you for a sign in, and actually it uses your Plymouth credentials. That was my university thing, and I have my this password. So the credentials are actually your University of Plymouth. So it's a single sign-on idea, and then once you're in, you notice there's some documentation. I can go to my projects, and I've got a whole bunch of different projects, various teaching projects, research projects, and also these same things. You can kind of create a new project. You can kind of share the different Jupyter notebooks between you and your teammates or group members, and it's kind of quite a nice system. Okay, and one of the advantages of doing this is if you ever need, it's a lot easier to install new packages in this system than on say, the University of Plymouth Python distribution. Okay, that's all I wanted to say.